Boss looked like a soul, courtesy of me. I worked as a recruiter for a temporary agency when I was young and fresh out of college. The manager of the agency was a total micromanager and wanted to say in absolutely everything. She micromanaged everyone so badly that she wanted to proofread any emails that any staff member was sending externally. She also wanted to be copied on every single outgoing external email. One day, one of my coworkers received a response from an employer who gave some positive feedback about the email she wrote. Our manager made sure to reply to all and take credit for the email, explaining that she oversees all outgoing emails. A few days later, in a staff meeting, she made a point of saying she should receive credit for any feedback the agency receives since she proofreads everything. The thing is, this manager was not well-spoken or smart, and not even a particularly good writer. I regularly spotted issues with her sentence structure and use of commas, but I just did not say anything. One day, she was proofreading one of my emails that would be going externally to an employer who invested a lot of money in our agency. I was stating in the email that I thought so-and-so was a great fit for their vacant position based on so-and-so's past experience. The manager came to my desk and told me the email looked good, except it should read past experience. I told her that was incorrect, and she told me I was wrong and that she knows the difference between the two words. I was not in the mood to argue, so I wrote it as past experience and copied the manager on the email. The employer wrote me back and said, as an employer who hires people to work on printed literature, they wanted to correct me and let me know it is actually past experience. That is where malicious compliance kicked in. I hit reply to all and thanked them for the feedback, explaining that my manager values all feedback, and since she proofreads all outgoing emails, she was the one who insisted on writing past experience. The next day, she announced she no longer wanted to proofread outgoing external emails and did not want to be copied on them any further. Malicious compliance put that witch in her place. Best comment. Congratulations, original poster. You also managed to do something that reminds her, every time she sees the words past or past for the rest of her life, exactly how arrogant and inept she is. I hope she has come to terms with the humiliation, but I doubt it. As for me, this story is very interesting and evokes a lot of emotions that are just waiting to burst out. If so, don't hold back and write what you think in the comments, and we'll move on to the next story. Bad boss wanted to waste my time. I got revenge by saying nothing. My primary job during the daytime has been in the elder care field for a long time now. This story takes place while I was earning my Master of Science degree, and my company allowed me to intern elsewhere 2 times a week to learn a couple of new managerial positions. Every morning at these buildings, we have what is called a stand-up meeting, an every weekday meeting where all the managers check in with each other. The only boss who actually had us stand up for these meetings kept them very quick, lasting 10 to 15 minutes. The rest let us sit and typically round them for 20 to 30 minutes. However, at my internship building, the director had a different vision. She only wanted to meet once a week, but for the entire morning. She thought it was more efficient and would allow us to dive deeper into issues. So she insisted we stay in that uncomfortably hot room for 3 hours every Tuesday morning, where after 30 minutes, the meetings devolved into her ranting about her breakfast and her commute because we were out of topics. As a good intern, hoping to gain her favor, I showed up one day early with a couple of things I had planned out to discuss. But I only got a couple of sentences in before she stopped me. She said, "If your topic is only relevant for some of the people at the table and not everyone, you should not be bringing it up here." Well, that rule was not true for anyone else there, and there went both of my topics for the day. But I shrugged and said, okay. So for the next few weeks, whenever it came my turn to speak, I simply replied that the things I needed to say were not for everyone. All my good ideas, everything I had to share from my assistant manager position at my primary building, she was not getting any of it. When I wrote my final paper on what I learned from that position, I made sure it was all right with my teacher to write about how a bad manager can teach you what not to do. Bonus. This director had me do some of her work as part of my internship, where I filled out the forms and she reviewed them. One day, she called me out for doing math wrong. She insisted that we should not be rounding up unless the number was at least 0.6. I tried to explain that it was at 0.5, but she mocked me and said she felt sorry for my math teachers. I mentioned this to another manager who told me to just let it go. So I did. But the thing is, the number she had me correct downward was our census percentages. We had 52 rooms occupied out of 55, so 94.54%. She had been reporting that as 94%. According to my primary buildings director, the cutoff for their position to earn bonuses was 95% residency. Top comments. Comment. Am I reading this right that she was keeping herself from getting the census percentage bonus, or was she keeping someone else from getting it? Author. Herself. It typically would be split between two positions, but that building did not have a marketing director. As for me, this story is very interesting and evokes a lot of emotions that are just waiting to burst out. If so, don't hold back and write what you think in the comments, and we'll move on to the next story. She ignored my warning. Then the hay buried her alive. I used to work for and manage a rural stock feed supply shop that delivered hard feed and hay to many of the local hobby farms. During the earlier year or two of my time there was a lady who, after some time, we came to a solid understanding that she can be a prickly person, and we have since laughed about this incident. For the sake of keeping her identity safe, let us call her Janice for this tale. Now, this woman is somewhere in her mid-60s and has quite the traditional attitude when it comes to doing things. That classic line of, "I have been doing this since you were in diapers, so do it how I tell you." Well, this one fine summer, in the middle of a drought, she ordered a large batch of hay, 60 bales. I drive out in the truck, and I know I'm going to get a good workout putting these bales in her shed because the truck cannot get close to her shed. Not a cloud in the sky to stop that sun beating down my neck as I unloaded the truck. 33 degrees Celsius, somewhere in the 90s Fahrenheit for those who prefer freedom units. I started stacking the hay in her shed in an interlocking staggered pattern so the bales would lock together and not fall over. Picture it like brickwork. The joins between the bales in one layer are covered by the bales in the layer above, so the whole thing holds firm. Each layer was 6 bales. 2 stacks, 5 high, 60 bales. If you need a bit more explanation on that, well, I do not quite know what to tell you. Sorry. I also did not quite know what to tell old Janice when she came running up. "You are stacking it all wrong," she tells me. "You will never fit it all in the shed." As I try to explain my plan, she talks over me and begins to gruffly comment something about uppity young people who think they know everything. She pulls apart my stack and starts stacking the hay in straight vertical columns, every bale sitting directly on top of the one below, seams aligned all the way up with no staggered overlap to hold it together. I already see the problem. Stacking 5 bales high like this is going to see a whole stack fall down whenever someone goes to get hay from the top of it. It is dangerous, it is stupid, it is not safe. Cue malicious compliance. I stacked the hay just like she wanted me to. And I notice the stack is very close to someone screaming, "Jenga!" I tell her she can put the final bale up. "No, I will feed this one out tonight," she says. Happy that I stacked it her way, she waves goodbye. I get in my truck. I start the engine. "Oh, fuck!" I hear from the hay shed. I swivel my head, and there lies poor old Janice under 10 bales of hay that somehow fell on top of her. I promptly unbury her. I call my boss. "Yeah, I'm gonna have to restack all this hay." My boss, she just won't learn her lesson. This time, as I restack the hay, I explain why I stacked it the way I did. And while she rolled her shoulder, wincing at the pain caused by her own stupidity, she says to me, "Glad one of us knows what they are doing." Top comments. Comment. Kudos to her for admitting her stupidity. Answer. I think she was hyper-focused on other specific things related to the bales rather than the stability of the stack, with the obvious idea that young equals less knowledgeable. I've seen smart people do similar things and then facepalm when someone points it out to them. Answer to answer. I admit I've been guilty of this. I can't recall any specific incidents, but I got so focused on this is the way to do it because it's always worked for me that I didn't even want to consider that some other way might actually be easier to do and work just as well. I finally tried it to prove them wrong, and it turns out they were right. Yes, I can learn new tricks. I'm just a little stubborn about it. Comment. She's lucky you didn't bail on her. As for me, this story is very interesting and evokes a lot of emotions that are just waiting to burst out. If so, don't hold back and write what you think in the comments, and we'll move on to the next story.
ProRevenge. He signed the paperwork without reading. Big mistake. It seems that you all enjoy my malicious compliance truck stories, all of which are true. This one will be no different. In this episode, I'm driving the twin-stick R-model Mack boom truck, the largest in our fleet. This truck was big, heavy, and had an unusually wide turning radius. At that time, I delivered construction materials. While we handled both residential and commercial materials, I often focused on new construction and commercial sites due to the truck's size. Every once in a while, I would get a residential delivery. Mostly, I could make these deliveries from the street without having to pull onto the property. This is not one of those stories. One day, I am told I am doing a residential roofing delivery to the roof of the house. My radar is now on because I am familiar with the roads in that area, and they are narrow. Delivery to the roof means I have to enter the property and get right up to the house. I get loaded and head to the job site. As I approach the job site, the road is narrow, barely 20 feet wide. The house is on my left, and facing the property, the driveway is on the left. This will be important in a moment. I stop and go find the person in charge. He says, "You're right on time. I need you in the driveway and the boom across the roof." I say, "That's great, but there are several issues. First, all the vehicles parked on the street need to be moved down past the neighbor's house for me to fit down this road. Second, I cannot make the turn from the street onto the driveway without driving across the lawn and backing up 2 or 3 times. Third, I cannot guarantee that the driveway can support the weight." He shouts, "I'll move the trucks and you just get your truck in here," in a very demeaning tone. I say, "Okay, I will." As I back down the street to the intersection, turn around, and back up the road, he gets all the trucks moved. I get into position to pull onto the property and stop. I grab my clipboard and jump out. I walk up to him and say, "I need you to sign this." We carry legal forms in the trucks that, when signed, make the signee or their company responsible for any damage to the property, truck, load, or towing fees to get the truck off-site. He signs and all but throws the clipboard at me. Well, okay then. Game on. I turn into the yard, pull across the driveway, and back up 4 times to get the truck completely on asphalt. Once in the best position I could manage, I get out and look at my handiwork. 8-inch ruts stretch across the front 29 feet of the yard from the street. Each edge, where the tires went from grass to asphalt or asphalt to grass, the driveway collapsed and broke away. The rest of the driveway had several 6-inch ruts that were at least a foot wide across most of it. But I am not done yet. I have to put down my outriggers to stabilize the boom. Because the driveway was as wide as the truck, the outriggers would be in the lawn. I carried large blocks to enlarge the footprint of the outriggers for stability on soft ground. This left 2 more 10-inch holes in the yard, about 3 feet by 4 feet square. I delivered the entire load without issue. Then the homeowner came home as I was climbing off the boom and started screaming at me about the state of his driveway and yard. I calmly turned, pointed to the job foreman, and said, "You need to talk to him." Then I turned back around and finished wrapping up the truck. I could hear them screaming at each other, but could not understand what they were saying. The final insult, I had to ask them both to move their vehicles so I could back out. And yes, more ruts were made while leaving. I paused on the street for a minute to check out my handiwork. It was bad. I got back to the warehouse and the bosses cornered me before I could get into the office. The contractor's boss had blown up my boss's phone with threats and complaints. I quickly explained and pulled out the signed affidavit. My boss said, "Well, okay then, we're covered," and I heard nothing more about it. That affidavit has saved me a lot over the years and has afforded me some great and funny malicious compliance stories. Top comment. I do not understand people who look straight at an experienced service provider and dismiss every warning given. I just told you 3 times that if I do what you are asking, there will be consequences, bad ones, guaranteed. And those people say, "No, I want to." Here, sign my waiver. If you like the story, subscribe to the Sneaky Pigeon channel to get more cool and interesting stories. And if you want to support us even more, like the video, write a comment, and turn on the bell to receive notifications about the latest videos. See you in the next videos. Bye-bye.